In the last video, I talked about the top 11 worst CD discoveries of 2024. So it makes sense that in this video, we're going to talk about not top 10, not top 20, not top 30, not top 40, but the top 50 best CD discoveries of 2024. Again, just to reiterate, this is not the top 50 best albums that came out in 2024. These are the top 50 albums that I heard for the first time in this particular year. So because I'm talking about 50 albums, it's going to be a long one, folks. So just sit back, relax, maybe have some snacks, maybe some eggnog, and maybe just play this in the background. That's another option. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. So to kick us off, we're starting out with a live album. I'm shocked as well because, as you've known, depending on how long you've been following the channel, you know I'm very hit or miss with live albums. But just to be straight up, there's actually quite a bit of live albums in this top 50. I know, I'm speechless too. But yeah, we have one more from the road by Lynyrd Skynyrd. And you know, this is considered a classic live album for them, as you know, it's kind of significant as, you know, not long after this album came out, or maybe afterward, where the infamous plane crash occurred. And, you know, this is pretty much the band at their peak, basically. You know, you have the big lineup, you know, Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, Alan Collins, Gary Rosington, Leon, hopefully I say his name right, Wilkson, hopefully, and Artemis Pyle, and of course you have the backup singers too, and you know, it has pretty much a lot of the big songs you want to hear from them. You know, Working for MCA, I Ain't the One, Tuesday's Gone, Sweet Home Alabama, and of course you have songs like Freebird. So yeah, I mean, the playing is fantastic, great vocals on here as well. And yeah, it's just Southern rock at its finest. And I heard there is a deluxe edition. Who knows, maybe one day we'll get that someday to kind of upgrade this. But you know, this is still a pretty good insight on what they were live at this point. You know, it's just 12 tracks. But you know, again, like I said, it has some of the big tracks that you want to hear. But yeah, really great live album. And yeah, it's in the top 50. We have Paul McCartney appearing on the list, and here we have New. Of course, it's not really new, it's actually kind of old at this point, but you know, this came out, when did this come out? 2013. And this was, you know, by this point, you know, Paul McCartney, you know, he's kind of somewhat later in his career. And yeah, you know, I was kind of, you know, there's a part of me that wanted to dive into his later career, but I've heard, you know, people have said that his newer stuff isn't as good as his early stuff, but I wanted to give it a chance, and I was very surprised. This is actually a very, very pleasant album. Great writing, of course. There's some good catchy melodies, and Paul, give him credit, actually still sounds pretty good here. Definitely like the tone on here. Yeah, it's just some pretty nice album. I mean, it starts off with Save Us, Alligators, pretty good. Early Days was pretty nice. Hosanna was another one that caught my attention. But yeah, I mean, again, for like a later McCartney album, this is definitely worth checking out. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about it, but it's just Paul McCartney just doing what he's good at, and that's writing some good, catchy, more, would you just call it, would you say pop? Maybe pop rock, maybe? I'm not sure. But again, this is still a very strong album, and it's number 49.
We talk real funny down here. We drink too much.
That's right. Randy Newman makes an appearance on the list, and I've bought 3 albums from him, and I think of the 3 I bought, yeah, this is so far my favorite album of his, mainly because he kind of goes in a more roots rock, Americana vibe, which I dig a lot. And I think it really works well with his sound too. And also lyrically, it's definitely something to kind of like really catch your attention because it is a satire. And, you know, Randy Newman's known for his satirical lyrical style. This album is basically him critiquing, like, sort of like old, like the South, and especially like probably around either pre-Civil War or post-Civil War, like maybe Reconstruction era, and just kind of poking fun of it and some of the racial stuff that goes on. It's a very fascinating album, and he does drop some N-bombs, but again, I feel like he kind of it works in the context in which he's singing it. So again, it's a pretty strong album, and yeah, definitely in number 48 now.
You can walk on the water, drown in the sand.
Well, here's some more Americana right off the bat. We have the band, and this is their album Cahoots. Yeah. So yeah, I've quite a bit of the band. I have the debut, of course. I have the self-titled album. I have Stage Fright, and yeah, this is another one I have now. And man, so far I've not heard a band album I did not like. Granted, I have not heard some of the more latter period band albums, so that I could be wrong. But man, again, the vibe that the band does is just something I've always enjoyed. Again, I love the feel, just the songwriting just absolutely really captures my attention. Songs like Life is a Carnival is a great track. When I Paint My Masterpiece, Last of the Blacksmiths, The Moonstruck One, Volcano. It's just another album by them that really just gives me a good chill feel. Like I feel relaxed when I hear the band. But yeah, overall, that's going to be next one on the list. Okay, I can kind of see people. There are some people out there who's probably not going to be into this and probably kicking me for placing it this high, honestly. But of course, Peter Cetera, of course, known as one of the former lead singers of Chicago. And, in the 80s, Chicago went on a more commercial direction, and Peter Cetera sort of became the face of the band at that point. And eventually, he would leave the band and go on a solo career. And, to his credit, pretty successful solo career to an extent. And yeah, this is his solo album right here. Again, if you're not a fan of poppy Chicago, you're definitely not going to like this, because it's those poppy songs to the max. Like, he goes it's way more commercial than some of the Chicago stuff. But I'm a sucker for it. So yeah, I heard the album and I was just, this is up my alley. Again, good catchy pops hooks. And again, Peter's vocals, like, even when he's doing pop, it just sounds great. I love the tone of his voice. Just so unique and just really smooth is what I'll say. But, this album has the big hit, Glory of Love, which was on the Karate Kid Part 2 soundtrack. But songs that are also great is Big Mistake, Queen of the Masquerade Ball, Daddy's Girl. And I know there's a big hit on here. I believe it's The Next Time I Fall, which has, what's her name? I'm blanking on the name for some reason. But I know she's kind of has a big career in her own right. So I'm just be double sure. Yeah, Amy Grant. I knew it was Amy something, but I forgot the last name. But there you go. So that was another big hit for him. But yeah, overall, again, it's poppy, it's commercial sounding, and I love it. So there you go. That's another probably hot take for this top 50. But maybe I was wrong not knowing how I love. Definitely a band with not the greatest name in the world, but shockingly, another album I surprisingly enjoyed. Like, I heard of the Babies before. I knew John Waits. I heard his name before from time to time. I know he had a pretty big solo career, I think. I know he had one big hit. But this is the band where he started out as. And yeah, I just saw this at a record store and I decided to get it. And I was pretty amazed. I was I wouldn't say amazed, but I was definitely surprised of how pretty good it sounded. Like it's again kind of pop rock, kind of AOR type of vibe. But again, vocally, I think John is pretty good as a singer. Definitely fits the vibe they're going for. Yeah, it's produced really well as well. It's pretty much one of those albums where every song on here was pretty enjoyable. Love Don't Prove I'm Right is a good opening song, and then you have this was a big hit for them. Every Time I Think of You, that's a really good one. I love the backing vocals of that track. Then you have songs like White Lightning. That's a really nice song and written by Billy Nichols, which is really nice. Run to Mexico. And then you have the closing song with California. I mean, we can add another bit of bias since I'm from California, and I think that's a great song. One of my favorites on the album. Love the guitar sound on that one. But yeah, Babies, head first. Really strong album here. Really much enjoy it. Definitely will look more into them at some point. I know Jonathan Cain will join the band at some point, so maybe we'll check that stuff out.
So come up singing about the cloudy cover.
This might be a hot take, but I think as of now, this is my favorite Jethro Tull album. I like Jethro Tull quite a bit. I wouldn't say they're a go-to band, but every time I hear them, they're like, okay, I dig this one. And this is definitely an album that really caught me off guard because, again, like I said, they're not a go-to band. But I don't know why. This particular album kind of did it for me. I mean, I liked the production on here. Ian Anderson's vocals were pretty solid all the way through. And there were some really good melodic moments that I really dug a lot. And it's a good blend of their proggy sound, but then you have a little bit of a folk rock edge, which was very nice. Songs like North Sea Oil, Orion, Dark Ages is good. Old Ghosts, and then Flying Dutchman is very different from what I've heard from Jethro Tull. And yeah, it's just, I don't have much else to say, but yeah, it's my favorite currently. So again, who knows? I still need to give them more chances, I feel. But yeah, overall, not much else to add, but yeah, it's in my top 50.
So long, farewell, I gotta go.
I started checking out more of Europe this year. So, Europe, obviously when people think of the bands, they're always going to think of the Final Countdown. That's their biggest single and definitely the song they're going to be known for. But they're a band that kind of has, they're one of those bands where they're known for the big hits, but I've heard some people who really, really know the band. They think, the Final Countdown is nowhere near as classic as some of their early stuff. And I definitely want to check out the early stuff just to see if they're more than beyond that big hit. And I can safely say that, yeah, I totally get it. This is their first album, so they're not really hitting it here in America quite yet. But yeah, this is a great, heavy, hard rock album. The guitar playing is absolutely killer. And the vocals from Joey Tempest, just really great. Like, I think, this is not the only, we're going to talk about Europe later, but I really have a strong appreciation for Joey Tempest. Like, I think he's a terrific singer, a very sort of, kind of theatrical in a sense, but he definitely has a good range. And yeah, it's just absolutely great and just matches the music really well. I don't know, bottom line, I think it's a very great album here, really great debut. And yeah, I think Europe are definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a hard rock, kind of like a early 80s hard rock fan or heavy metal fan. Definitely worth checking out.
In a white room with black curtains near the stage.
I know me and Nick did a series on Cream not that long ago, and yeah, I can safely say this is probably my favorite Cream album. Just really Gears gets a lot of praise, and that's a great album as well, but I think I prefer this one just a little bit more. Again, just a great power trio with Eric Clapton, Jack Bruce, and Ginger Baker. And the studio side has some great songs like White Room, Sitting on Top of the World, Passing the Time, Politician, Deserted Cities of the Heart. And, there are some weak stuff. I'm not crazy for Pressed Rat and Warthog. That's kind of Ginger being weird. But all the other songs make up for it. And the live, the live disc is really great. Again, you get a sense of how they sound like live, and it's just really killer. You have Crossroads, Spoonful, and then you have side 2, or I guess side 4 technically, but you have Train Time, not my favorite of the live cuts, but still interesting. And then you have Ginger Baker's Toad, which is just him showing off his drum skills, which is still top notch. But yeah, in terms of Cream, I think this is going to be my go-to. Dis Really Yours is close second, but this is really a terrific album. Now we get to talk about some Sweet, or The Sweet. Seriously, in the comments below, what do you prefer, The Sweet or just Sweet? Personally, I just like saying Sweet. But yeah, a bit of some... Sweet is an interesting band. I was pretty amazed with how kind of diverse they are, because, they're kind of lumped with glam rock, but then you have some power pop, then you have some almost hard rock, borderlining heavy metal. It's just a really cool blend of styles, and again, the playing is great guitar work on here. Really enjoy the vocals too. Again, of course this is the US version, by the way. I know the UK is slightly different with a different track listing, but yeah, the US is what I'm talking about. And you have songs like Ballroom Blitz, which is a great kind of anthemic track for them. Then you have the other big hit, Fox on the Run, which is great as well. But everything else, like the 16s, AC/DC, not the bands, the song, Sweet FA, Set Me Free, Into the Night. It's a great kind of early 70s, mid 70s rock album, and I definitely want to check out more of the band at some point. But you can let me know some other albums I should check out, but this is a great starter for the band here.
There's something happening here, but what it is...
This is another case where I did this video with Nick and Jason. We did a little mini series of Buffalo Springfield, and yep, this is their debut, and yeah, it's a really nice debut album. It's one of those albums where it kind of grew on me the more I gave it more listens, because it has the big hit For What It's Worth. I know there's 2 versions of this album. This is like a reissue with For What It's Worth. You hear that guitar intro with the harmonics, and Stephen Stills does a great vocal, and it's a nice catchy song, a good kind of protest song. It's a nice song. But then you have other great songs like Go and Say Goodbye, which is, you have Richie Furay, just really great vocalist as well. Then you have Nowadays Clancy Can't Even Sing, which that's another great, almost not quite a ballad, but it could be a ballad. I just love the vocals on the song. That's a song written by Neil Young, but if you knew the history, they didn't think Neil had a good enough voice, so a lot of his songs were sung by Richie. But still, his songwriting and his vibes is absolutely really nice. But then you have other songs like Out of My Mind, which is really nice. Flying on the Ground is wrong. Yeah, it's just another good 60s album. Kind of folky, kind of a little bit of a country twang at certain points, but I think it blends pretty well. And it's by far their best album of their 3, in my opinion. But yeah, it's definitely a very must listen if you're into like folk rock. Alright, finally get to talk about some more obscure stuff. We have Cactus. This is their debut album. I don't know why. I also like the album cover too. I just like the kind of desert field. I like the cactus there. So if you're not aware who Cactus are, they're a kind of hard rock band, kind of definitely a kind of a blues rock band as well. And you have Carmine Appice on here on drums, and yeah, the drumming on here is just absolutely killer. Like he's definitely one of those drummers that I feel like not many people talk about, but when you know and hear him, like it is really spectacular stuff. Like very heavy sounding, really hitting hard, almost like a John Bonham, but I think he kind of differentiates himself enough. But the rest of the band's pretty good too. Good guitar work on this. Good vocals. I mean, the vocals aren't like the mind-bending vocals you'll hear, but they fit fairly well. Bass playing's good too. Yeah, only 8 songs, so not that long. And yeah, another song I just really dug. It's just a good heavy rock album that, I like heavy stuff, and I think it's done very well. So if you can find this album, because it's not the most well-known album or by a well-known band, but if you're into like kind of a bluesy hard rock sound, then you might be surprised. You might enjoy this one. So yeah, Cactus, self-titled.
Said it's a pity about the middle class holding the maps. We get a bigger player now when dust.
Alright, we're going to Australia now. We have Midnight Oil with the album Head Injuries. Alright, so this is kind of a more early Midnight Oil album. Of course, we know, well, not many people, but some people know them for the song Beds Are Burning, but that was 1987. This album is more kind of somewhat early. This is 1979, so at this point they weren't really a household name, but in Australia they were definitely making a name for themselves, and this is definitely a nice kind of hear them in a more raw, definitely have a more punkish edge here. And Peter Garrett, you hear his voice and it's definitely a voice you gotta get used to. But once you get into it, like, you can tell he's probably having a blast. Like, he's passionate about what he's singing about. Midnight Oil are kind of political, but man, you just feel the passion in his voice, and you kind of respect him for that. Again, let me just see, because you can't see this track listing on the CD. But Cold Change is great. Then you have songs like Stand in Line, which is a great fast-paced track. Naked Flame. Back on the Borderline, and the album's not that long either. Again, kind of, it's like I said, it has a punkish edge, so a lot of the songs aren't that long, but it's good, kind of a good fast-paced, upbeat album. It's definitely pretty fun to listen to. But yeah, Midnight Oil, again, not really known to most Americans, but to me, I think they're definitely worth exploring.
In the world these days.
Yep, we're talking about another live album, and we have The Who. Yep, this is live at the Isle of Wight Festival, 1970. And here comes a hot take. I think I prefer this over Live at Leeds, personally. I don't know why. I feel like I like the sound of the album here a little bit more. I think the performances as a whole, I feel, are a lot better. I don't know, it just has a much more oomph to it for some reason. But still, Live at Leeds, it's great. I mean, it's famous for a reason. But for me, I feel like this deserves a bit more appreciation. Again, and what I love about this particular CD copy is that, you have the whole Tommy suite in the context on when it was played originally. Because it was the same tour as Live at Leeds. But here, like I said, the Tommy suite is in context with how it is in the original set list, where on Live at Leeds, my deluxe edition, it's separated, so it plays all the standalone songs on disc 1 and then the Tommy part on the disc 2, which is fine, but of course in reality it was not the case. So I like this one just because it's more faithful to how it would have sounded like if you were at that time. But overall, it pretty much has the similar track listing. I mean, you have songs like Heaven and Hell by John, which is great opening. Can't Explain. And then their killer version of Young Man Blues, which, again, the bass playing is just absolutely stellar with Keith Moon's drumming. Good rhythm by Pete as well. And then, the whole Tommy suite, it's, it's good. I mean, duh. But yeah, then you have others, good songs like My Generation, Naked Eye, Magic Bus. Yeah, it's The Who at their most ferocious, and you gotta love it for it. So there you go, The Who.
Well, I'm busting out
And now we have some Tommy Bolin. I've talked about him quite a bit this year because I've started kind of listening to more albums he was on. And because like I said prior, like I knew him from Come Taste the Band by Deep Purple, but again, for most people who know Tommy's playing, like he's pretty well respected among guitar players. And yeah, this was the first one I picked up. Surprisingly, this is his second and last solo album before he, passed away very young. And the variety on here is very interesting. You have your good old hard rock, but then you have moments where it's kind of bluesy, maybe a little bit of jazz in there, a little bit of jazz fusion. And yeah, it just kind of works. I think Tommy does a great job on these genres, and vocally he's pretty decent too. Again, not in like amazing vocals, but again, it fits the tone which he's going for. Yeah, I mean, I could go through the track listing, but again, it's one of those albums that I really enjoyed everything. There was not really a weak spot for me. But yeah, I will say, this is not the last time we'll talk about Tommy in this list. I'll just be straight up. But yeah, I'm impressed by this one, so there you go. Well, I'm sure some of you aren't surprised that we're going to talk about some Japanese music here. And so here we have Love Trip. It's by the artist. Again, I'm even though I like Japanese music, I'm by no means efficient at pronunciation. But this is from an artist named Takako Mamiya. Not Mamma Mia, but Mamiya. But yeah, this is her one and only album, I believe, and she pretty much quit the music business not long after this one, because I believe, if I remember correctly, the album didn't really do well initially, and so she kind of like, okay, I guess I'm done with music now, and she's kind of been more in the private life now. But it's one of those albums where in Japan it kind of risen the ranks, and now it's kind of more in the echelon with city pop and stuff like that. And yeah, it is a really nice album. Like, again, what I love about Japanese pop is that the production is always crisp and just absolutely pleasing to the ears. And the songs themselves, very nice vibe, good kind of more, it's not like a in-your-face sort of pop album. It's kind of more mellow, but it's very well-paced, and I love the tone of her vocals. Again, it's not Whitney Houston level vocals, but it just fits perfectly in the pocket, and just the overall structure of the tracks are very well done. Again, I could tell you a song, but it's in Japanese, so you gotta hear the album for yourself to get your grasp on it. But yeah, very enjoyable album, and yeah, that's not the last Japanese album we'll talk about.
All you have to do is look at.
Okay, so in the top 11 worst, this band appeared 3 times. But here I'm going to try to redeem myself because I do love a lot of the albums from this band. And I heard this album this year, and it's from Fleetwood Mac, and we have Penguin. So this is during the Bob Welch era, and it came out in 1973, produced by Martin Birch, surprisingly, who of course produced like Deep Purple, Iron Maiden, Rainbow, a lot of heavy bands. But here he's doing Fleetwood Mac, which is kind of surprising. But yeah, it is a pretty underrated album. I mean, Christine's songs, absolutely killer. You have Remember Me, Bright Fire, Dissatisfied. Yeah, of course, I mean, the only downside are the 2 songs featuring the one time Dave Walker on another vocalist, which he's okay, but clearly doesn't fit. But it's fine. But again, you have songs like Did You Ever Love Me? Again, another Christine song. But Again, you have Bob Welch also contributing as well. You know, songs like Revelation, Night Watch, and I think I accidentally said Bright Fire was a Christine song. That's also a Bob song. Just had to correct myself. But yeah, it's a very enjoyable album. Again, not like, I wouldn't say it's S tier, but maybe a low A tier at least. But very underrated era. So there you go, Penguin. So Hawkwind appears here. Of course, known for their kind of spacey, kind of proggy type of rock music. It's trippy stuff at times, but to me, this is I've heard this to quite a bit of Hawkwind recently, especially this year. But I feel like of the ones I've heard, this is by far my favorite. I don't know, this album kind of hits you more quicker. With the other albums I've heard, I feel like they needed to soak in a bit more, but this one I picked up pretty quickly. Again, good kind of more experimental type of songs. The playing was pretty good, and of course you have Lemmy, of course from Motorhead, appearing on here because this is him pre-Motorhead, which is kind of interesting to hear him in a context like this because I'm so used to, you know, how he would be in Motorhead that you hear something more like this and it's like, man, this is like completely different players. And so yeah, kind of going through this album in particular really gave me a better appreciation to Lemmy as a bass player. But overall, it's a pretty cool album. Again, I wouldn't say their Hawkwind are like a go-to band, but I think this is definitely an album I could see myself returning to quite often. And also that album cover is pretty cool. I like the design of it. But yeah, maybe not for everybody. Maybe not for the faint of heart. But when you're in the right mood, it really kind of sends you on a trip, to put it lightly.
Lord, I was born a rambling man.
Okay, talking about some more Southern rock. We have the Allman Brothers Band. We have Brothers and Sisters. Of course, another, I don't know, I think the reason why I like this album quite a bit was because of just the feel of it. It has a very, I don't know, there's a little bit of a somberness to it, kind of a longingness. There's like maybe also a sentimental value, which kind of caught my attention. I wouldn't say it made me emotional, but it was definitely to put you in a different mindset. But, you know, songs like Wasted Words, Rambling Man, which is a pretty big song for them. Jessica is great. Southbound, Come and Go Blues. Again, not only 7 tracks really, but, you know, there's some longer pieces. But really, again, the band absolutely doing a great job. And again, Greg Allman's vocals, I gotta give props to Greg Allman. His vocals just have this bluesy, soulful feel to it, and it's just absolutely a great listen. Yeah, there you go. Good to have some more Southern rock in the top 50. Hey, some Bachman Turner Overdrive. So far, my one and only, and I got this pretty early on in the year. And man, they're a band I've been meaning to check out for quite some time, and for a first album, pretty positive note. I mean, it's pretty high. Considering the top 50. Yeah, I mean, it's a good hard rock album, good guitar work. I mean, the guitar work was really the big showcase here. And, you know, it has a big hit on here with You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. But other songs like Not Fragile, just a killer opening song. And also you have Rock in My Life, and This Is My Song. Rolling On Down the Highway, Sledgehammer, Peter Gabriel, BTO. Giving It All Away is a pretty nice closing song. Yeah, another pretty impressive hard rock album. So, again, I really want to check out more of them. I kind of wish I did check more this year, but who knows? Maybe in 2025 we'll check some out. But let me know some recommendations in the comments.
I learned the hard way that what you dream for comes.
Well, it's about time I talk about something from this current year. So Judas Priest makes an appearance here, and this is their latest album. Of course, the Invincible Shield. Man, Judas Priest, They've been around for over 50 years. I mean, in terms of as a recording artist, they've been around since the late 60s, but man, just goes to show, like, even in this day and age, they can still rip a killer album. I mean, it's heavy, the guitar playing is stellar, and Rob, he's in his 70s, and yet he can still just sing his heart out. He can still get pretty high, and it's just a badass album. I mean, Panic Attack, great opening song, The Serpent and the King, the title track, Gates of Hell, Crowns of Thorns, the Trial by Fire is great. And Giants in the Sky, kind of a nice little tribute to Ronnie James Dio, which is very cool. Album artwork's pretty cool as well. Man, again, Judas Priest are one of those bands where they shouldn't be this good this late in the game, but they still surprise you. So yeah, I had to give this one a big shout out.
99, I've been waiting so long.
It's from an album that maybe not so many people know because this was kind of somewhat of a commercial flop. I think it's still sold kind of well, but nowhere near as big as their debut. So Hydra is definitely an interesting album in their discography. Kind of a weird oddball because they have, of course, you still have some more catchy moments, but here they're kind of really starting to branch out. There are some moments that almost borderlines progressive rock, but still keep it in their Toto sound. So it's not too experimental, but there's definitely some songs that maybe are stretched a bit longer than normal, and more interesting, like switch ups here and there. But I think it works great. Like, to me, this is like a very underrated album. Like, of course, you have the big albums like the debut, as I previously mentioned, and of course you have Toto 4. But yeah, this is still, I mean, these are some of the greatest session musicians here, so of course they're gonna play well. And vocally, I still think it's done really nice. The title track, St. George and the Dragon, Laura Lane, hopefully I said that right. White Sister, and close it out pretty nicely with Secret Love. Yeah, it's just a fascinating album. Again, nothing too out there, but in terms of Toto, definitely something you wouldn't expect from them. So I think it's definitely worth a listen. Again, you may not attach to it quickly, but again, it's just one of those things you kind of start to appreciate the more you give it more listens. So yeah, there you go. Hydra by Toto.
That's my new car.
And the Allman Brothers Band appear once again with their self-titled debut from 1969. And to most people, based on what people have said, this is where Southern rock really hit its mark. And the amount of bands that would take the sound and would really push it further, man, you can definitely hear the influence. Again, the guitar playing, I mean, goes without saying. You have Duane Allman and Dickie Betts here, and those two sound extremely well together. How they trade off, how they kind of complement each other. So, some stellar stuff. And the drumming's great. I mean, the vocals, I've already talked about the vocals already, but even early on, still sounds fantastic from Greg. Of course, you have Don't Want You No More. It's Not My Cross to Bear. Dreams, Trouble No More, and of course it has a pretty early classic for them with Whipping Post. Of course, in the live album at the Fillmore East, definitely they would stretch it even more with a lengthier jam session, but the studio version's still pretty good too. But yeah, good southern bluesy rock at its finest.
In the eyes of the world, I am too.
And yeah, here's another album that came out this year. Shocking, I know. So that's 2 for 2 now. So we have the Lemon Twigs with their album. Let me see if I always forget the full title. A Dream Is All We Know. So this is their follow-up to Everything Harmony. But yeah, this is another album they came out with. And, the Lemon Twigs, they definitely have a sound that's definitely kind of harkening back to the mid 60s. If you like kind of like that Rubber Soul era Beatles, or even a bit of the Beach Boys, kind of around that time. Maybe more something like the Byrds, like that kind of that jingly guitar sound. You will definitely dig the Lemon Twigs. Like, again, the vocal between the two brothers really sound great, especially when they harmonize. They have a good kind of feel good tone to it. And yeah, I mean, it's just a nice vibe album. Again, if you like the bands I mentioned to kind of describe them, then I have no doubt you'll like this one, because it definitely gives you that sort of kick that, most people, when some people just don't like modern music, but stuff like this kind of tells you that this sound is not dead. There are people who still really appreciate the classic sound, and it's good to know that the sound's still going. I will say though, this is not going to be the only time we'll see the Lemon Twigs here, but still a great album, but not my favorite from them. And here we are at number 26 on the list. We have Bjork with Debut. Ironically, technically not her first album, because her first album was in the mid-70s actually, and she was very young. I forgot how old she was, but I know a lot younger than you think. But this is her kind of her, I guess, her real debut. Came out in 1993, and I had a little bit of a Bjork kick earlier this year. It didn't really go too far, because I thought it was gonna be something like a Kate Bush phenomenon, but you do get a lot of Kate Bush influence here. But yeah, I had a brief Bjork kick, and I think still, of the Bjork albums I've heard, I think this is still by far my favorite. I feel like the songs here just kind of hit a lot quicker. Again, I probably need to hear Post again, because I know that album gets a lot of praise as well. But I don't know, I just like the songs on this one as well a bit more. Songs like Human Behavior. Then you have Crying, and then you have songs like Venus as a Boy. Love the overall atmosphere that song was going for. It has a slight Indian vibe, but I just really enjoy her vocals on that track. And again, she has a pretty wide range, so she's going, it's almost like the Dreaming from Kate Bush, where she's kind of exploring every asset of her voice, and just more like it's all about the sound rather than if it makes sense or not. But yeah, so also there's songs like There's No More Life Than This. Then you have Big Time Sensuality, but good kind of upbeat. It has a dance vibe to it, but again, it works for me. Like, I actually like the overall sound of it. Come to Me, Violently Happy. Yeah, it's just an interesting album, and Bjork is definitely an interesting artist. And I guess that's kind of why I'm pretty fascinated by her, because she just has that, I don't know, that uniqueness, that something that kind of makes her different from everything I've heard. And I like stuff like that. I like stuff that catches me off guard or sounds nothing like I've heard before. So who knows? Maybe I'll hop back on the Bjork kick at some point, but you never know. Yeah, this is still my favorite. Okay, so we are officially halfway through the list. So if you've actually stuck around this long, then I really do appreciate it. Again, quick reminder, please give this video a like, subscribe if you are new, and we're going to continue on. I'm actually going to take a break now because I've been recording for over an hour now. So I'm going to snap my fingers and we're going to cut to a brand new day. In 3, 2, 1. Alright, can you tell it's a brand new day? Anyhow, let's keep moving.
I've been really trying.
And now we have some soul and R&B in the mix. Of course, Marvin Gaye, of course, very well-known R&B singer from Motown. And of course, we have Let's Get It On. Of course, we know the title track. I mean, whenever there's a kind of sexy sort of scene, of course, they're going to play that lick. It's just iconic for a reason. But beyond that, I think the rest of the album is really strong. I mean, again, pretty much all the songs here are very nice. Again, the production's great, and of course, vocally, Marvin's vocals are just absolutely top notch. Please Don't Stay, If I Could Die Tonight, Distant Lover, You Sure Love to Ball, Just Keep You Satisfied. And, that kind of sums it up, actually. It does leave you very satisfied. So definitely a nice discovery. Again, I haven't heard everything from Marvin Gaye. I know what's going on. That's his big album. So I don't think it's quite at that level, but I don't think it's trying to be. Overall, very nice, enjoyable album. And now Tommy Bolin appears yet again with his first solo album, Teaser. Okay, so it's a more in line of a more harder rock album. His Private Eyes is definitely more him experimenting with different sounds, but here it's kind of a bit more straightforward. Again, you do have slight moments of him kind of deviating, but still, the riffs are great, and the playing is from all the rest of the band is really good as well. And yeah, I just found this one just a bit more, just kind of hits me a little bit more than the Private Eyes. Again, a good album, but this one I feel is a bit more up my alley. Again, only 9 songs. You have The Grind, Dreamer, People. There is instrumental, but instrumental is decent enough. But yeah, as an album, I think this is one I tend to gravitate a little bit more. But still, very good album from Tommy Bolin, and it's pretty interesting. I got into a little bit of a kick from him. I know I bought Moxie, which is an album he guested on. Just overall, I feel like I've grown a much better appreciation for Tommy Bolin as a player. So yeah, we'll see because I know he's done more stuff, so maybe we'll check those out at some point. But overall, Tommy Bolin, thumbs up.
I'm on an iceberg running free.
Alright, the Bee Gees makes an appearance, and here we have Odessa. So this is a double album from them, and of course this is not disco Bee Gees. This is more, it's kind of a weird middle period for them, where, when they first started, they were kind of in that 60s pop, and then of course they would get even more massive in the 70s with disco. But this is a kind of an interesting in-between, where it's not quite, this album in particular is not quite poppy, but it still has those Bee Gees harmonies and vocals, and it has that very kind of orchestral, sophisticated sound. But you also have a mixture of country in this, so it's a pretty interesting blend here. And yeah, I can definitely see why some Bee Gees fans say this is by far, as in terms of albums, this is their kind of their masterpiece almost, because of just how grandiose it just seems. And each member gets a chance to shine. Of course, Barry and Robin do most of the vocals, but it's interesting to actually hear songs where Morris actually gets the chance to sing the lead, which I feel like at some point he kind of just stops having lead vocals, but hearing him at this point, it's definitely interesting. It kind of has a more lower tone from Robin and Barry, but just an observation. But yeah, it's a double album. There is a lot to get through. And yeah, I just like the opening song, Odessa, it's a longer track, but it just sets the tone very well. Black Diamond, Melody Fair, Lamplight, I Laugh in Your Face, 1st of May. Yeah, it's definitely a nice listen here, and I'm glad to check this out. And it's good to get some more early Bee Gees, because I'm so used to the disco stuff, and it's even some of the later 80s stuff I kind of gravitate towards. But who knows, maybe we'll deep dive them at some points and really give them the credit they deserve. But there you go, Odessa by Bee Gees. I talked about this album not that long ago, and yep, we have the latest Linkin Park album from Zero. Alright, so again, I'm not going to go too in depth because I've talked about I talked about this in my November CD haul. But there was a lot of anticipation. Of course, you have Emily Armstrong on lead vocals. And just to be quick, yeah, this was something I was definitely surprised. Like, I'm shocked just how impressed I was. Again, The Emptiness Machine was the first single. I enjoyed that. But I think the rest of the songs are really strong as well. Heavy as the Crown, Over Each Other, that might be my favorite song on here. Casualty, Two-Face, Stains, Good Things Go. It just still has that Linkin Park charm that I always enjoy. And again, hopefully we'll get another album from this lineup, because I feel like it's a good starter. But who knows? Maybe we can get something even better and an album a little bit longer, because this is just, I think it's like barely a half hour, just a little bit over. So I would like to hear a longer album next time. But overall, very impressed with this one. Again, very great return for Linkin Park.
Open your heart, let me hear you.
And here we have, I guess as of now, my favorite Europe album. I think it has a good blend of the more hard rock, but also this album does have has some commerciality to it. Stormwind is great. Love that one. Good opening song. Scream of Anger. And then you have Open Your Heart, which is, I guess the big pop single on here, but it's good. Really good, catchy song that is. Let's see. Wasted Time, Lionize, Dance the Night Away. Like I said, it's a good blend of what you can kind of see where they're going, because on the third album, that's when you get the final countdown, and that's when they really go in a more commercial sound. But here you still have a little bit of that raw edge, but still infused with the more commerciality to it. But yeah, as of now, this is my favorite Europe album. Again, I said this earlier, but I think I did when I talked about the debut, but definitely a band way more than just that big hit. And I guess Carrie 2 was a big hit if you count that too, but definitely worth exploring more. And yeah, maybe we'll check out more from the band.
I have a dream. The sun.
All right, ABBA has appeared. So this year, I definitely went out of my way to buy the entire ABBA catalog. So now I have all the studio albums, and this is definitely one of my favorites that I heard from them this year. We have Voulez-Vous. Again, I've said this many times, but if you do not like ABBA, where's your freaking heart, man? But it's just fun, just great production, great vocals. They're just a blast to listen to. And this album has good songs like As Good As New, good opening song. The title track, just a good guitar riff, guitar melody in the beginning. I Have a Dream, which is a big hit, of course. Does Your Mother Know, which is a cool, good upbeat track sung by Bjorn, I believe. Chiquitita, another good song. But then you have, of course, granted, even though Gimme 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 is not technically part of the album, it's a bonus song here. I'm gonna include it. So yeah, I love Gimme Gimme Gimme. But yeah, it's ABBA. That's all you need to know. Great band, love them. Now we have some more progressive rock in this mix, and we have Todd Rundgren's Utopia. So Todd Rundgren was known as like a kind of a pop singer in his early time, but I guess by the get to like the mid 70s, he decides to just branch out and go into some more wild stuff. And of course, he decided to form a progressive rock band, because why not? Because he can. So yeah, this is the first album, and I think they released another one if I'm not mistaken. But this is one I've wanted for a long time, because I hear a lot of great things about this album, and I've also wanted to get on a CD, because I have heard rumors, and I don't know if it's true, because I don't have the vinyl. I'm just going by word of mouth. But I heard it's better to get on CD because on the record it's a single disc, and the side 2 has the 30-minute song, the icon, and it's 30 minutes, and it just barely fits on the side, to the point where all the grooves are so small, it just kind of doesn't sound right. But on CD, it kind of rectifies that. Just a side note. But yeah, I bought it, I listened to it, and yep, I was not disappointed. Just the overall scope of it all, and just how far it goes, is so much fun to listen to. And I think Todd definitely does a great job in progressive rock. Again, the guitar work is great, the keyboard playing, some good bass work. It just works. Again, only 4 tracks, and yeah, the first song's 14 minutes, second song 10 minutes, the shortest song is like 4 minutes, and then you have like the Icon, which I said was 30 minutes. But it's a really great album. If you are a prog fan, this is definitely something you should give a listen to, because it's definitely a really treat. And the album cover too, I don't know why, I like the album cover. It's kind of weird, but kind of not. It's kind of, just can't take your eye off it. Anyhow, if that makes any sense. But still, Todd Rundgren's Utopia, definitely a good listen. And here's me talking about another good Fleetwood Mac album. Here we have Heroes Are Hard to Find. Of course, album cover is atrocious, but the music inside is very strong. Of course, the last with Bob Welch before he departed the band. And definitely a very nice album for him to go out with. I think it's a pretty strong one. You got Heroes Are Hard to Find, great opening song. Coming Home is good. Angel. Then you have Bermuda Triangle, which is great song from Bob. Good, has a good driving beat to it, which I really dig. Come a Little Bit Closer. And then probably my favorite song on here is Prove Your Love. That's a Christine song. And I love the overall feel of that one. I love her vocals on here, especially how she holds that note during the chorus, or how she kind of goes up and down during the chorus. Then you close out with Safe Harbor, which, given the context of, how Bob kind of passed, I'm not going to go into specifics, but it kind of makes it a little emotional. But still, it's a very underrated album in their discography, from a very underrated era, I must say. But yeah, Heroes Are Hard to Find. Bad album cover, but music inside is still very nice. And more progressive rock yet again. We have King Crimson. So this is an album that came out in the early 80s, and this was after a long period of dormancy, because the album they released was Red, and that was 74. And I guess Robert Fripp just ultimately decided, hey, let's get the band back together. And it's a brand new lineup. You still have Robert Fripp. You have Tony Levin on bass, which, of course, Tony Levin, monster bass player. But you have Bill Bruford returning. But then you have Adrian Belew on guitars and vocals. And the first song, Elephant Talk, just right off the bat, just kind of showcases how different this sound was going to be for the band. It has this very unique bass line. The bass playing, again, just absolutely just gets you moving. And Adrian Belew has a very unique vocal style. It almost has a Talking Heads quality to it, but I don't mind it. I think it kind of fits with the music they're going for. Yeah, I mean, Frame by Frame's pretty good. Monte, I hope I said this right. Matt Cadusa? I don't know. It's kind of dark here as well. But yeah, again, there's so many different twists and turns. There's some instrumental tracks here, but it just works for some reason for me. I can definitely see some people not vibing with it, but you know me. Sometimes I like the weird stuff. But there you go. King Crimson appearing again. Well, not again, but I talk about him again. I'll cut this part out. Well, here it is, my favorite Lemon Twigs album. And of course, it's Everything Harmony. And I don't know, I just prefer this one a little bit more, because I feel like some of my favorite songs from them, based on what I've heard, are on this album. But again, like I said, they have this very good sound where, again, harkening back to like the mid-60s. When Winter Comes Around, In My Head, has that Birds quality I talked about before. Corner of My Eyes Nice. Any Time of Day, love the vocal harmony on that track. Very good slower track, but very nice. Then you have some songs that definitely sound kind of depressing. Born to Be Lonely, Every Day is the Worst Day of My Life. Let's see, what else? Still It's Not Enough. Definitely a mood, but hey, I like moody stuff, so it's up my alley even more. But again, pretty much everything I said about the last Lemon Twigs album I mentioned prior, it can apply to here, but again, to me, this just kind of edges it out just slightly. But still, Lemon Twigs, very impressed. Maybe we'll check out more.
Hippos don't wear hats.
Now, this one was definitely a surprise. I was not expecting this to be pretty high. And yeah, Traffic. And, I bragged on their debut album in the last video, but yeah, this is an album I really liked. Again, I don't know if I said this already, but early in a previous video, but this could possibly be my favorite Traffic album. I know, shocking. But again, it has just these, I just love the sound of it. Again, Steve Winwood's vocals, great. The keyboard playing as well, and the bass work on here is really nice. I don't know, just it has a vibe to it that I really gravitate towards. There are some long tracks, Dream Gerard, hopefully I said that right. It's 11 minutes. But I don't know, it has this groove that you just kind of are sucked into it, which is great. Graveyard People, Memories of Rock and Rolla. You have the title track, Something New. Yeah, it's just a very nice album. Again, I wouldn't say it's progressive rock per se, but it definitely has a nice sound. But again, and people don't even talk about this album. I heard this is a pretty forgotten one in their catalog, so here to change that. But there you have it. Traffic. This is the only type of traffic that you want to be in. Okay, this one's kind of cheating because it's not technically an album. It's actually an EP, but screw it. I have live albums in here, so why not have an EP in this? So Queensryche, this is their first big release. Only 5 songs, technically. Actually, either 5. Yeah, it might be 5, but I could be wrong. But still, as a kind of way to introduce the band, it really succeeds in that. I mean, it starts off with Queen of the Reich, which, Jeff Tate's vocals, like, again, he's one of the top tier metal singers. I love his tone, love how he goes high. Guitar work is killer from the 2 guitar players. You have Chris DeGarmo and Michael White. Drumming and bass really locked in. Yeah, it's just a great heavy metal album. Night Rider's good, Blinded, thinking about their songs with Lady Wore Black, and then you have Prophecy, which I believe is not originally part of this. I think it was a bonus thing for this CD. But still though, it's quick. It's not long at all, but man, does it leave an impact on you. So I'm a Queensryche fan. I like them a lot. Definitely need to dive deep into them a bit more. And Paul McCartney appears yet again with a Wings album with Venus and Mars. Okay, so this album gets a lot of praise. I mean, it's Paul McCartney and Wings, and as of now, still have not heard an album I don't like from this era of Paul. Again, the guitar works good, bass works good. Keyboard playing is nice when it shows up. But yeah, you have the title track, then you have Rock Show, which are kind of life staples in a sense. Medicine Jar is usually pretty highly, people usually say stuff about it. Spirit of Ancient Egypt, weird topics, but that's to be expected. You Gave Me the Answer. It's kind of a more rocking album. It's definitely not, I wouldn't say it's as immediate as something like Band on the Run, for example, but I still think it's a very, very fun, very strong album, and just, again, gets you in the mood. So there you go, more Paul McCartney. You can't go wrong with Paul McCartney. And now we have possibly my favorite Cure album, And I've listened to quite a bit of The Cure. Of course, I have Wish, and I have Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, and Disintegration, and I have Pornography. But I think out of all the ones, I feel like from start to finish, I feel this is their most consistent album. Because, again, it has a good blend of that sort of gothic sound, but still has some good, catchy, memorable melodies that, I don't know, just kind of hooked me all the way through. Like, stuff like Disintegration and even Wish. Has some great songs, but I feel like sometimes those long intros get a bit much. But here they kind of get to the point a lot quicker, which I tend to gravitate a little bit more. But I'm not going to go through the tracks because, again, every song on here definitely was very nice, very strong. Robert Smith, good songwriter, great vocals as well. And yeah, just overall, it's a very good album. Yeah, definitely an album I see myself going back to quite a bit. But there we go. Got The Cure in here.
The winner takes it all. The loser.
And just barely missing the top 10, we have more ABBA. And we have Super Trooper. Don't know if this is my favorite ABBA album. I'm still thinking that over, but this is definitely a good contender. It starts out with Super Trooper. That's probably one of my favorite ABBA songs. Again, they always have a way of making sad songs, but yet still have a good pep to it, if that makes sense. But still, very nice. Winner Takes It All, another one that could potentially be a favorite ABBA song. Just love the vocals on that one. Then you have Me and I, New Year's, Happy New Year. Our Last Summer, a great deep cut. I love that song. Lay All Your Love on Me. Good bass work on that track. It does have some bonus tracks too, but just copy paste what I said about Voulez-Vous. If you don't like ABBA, what's wrong? So the Alan Parsons Project has finally reached this list. And I've listened to a little bit more of them this year, but I think still, as of now, this could be my favorite Alan Parsons Project. I just think the overall, again, the production is always going to be great because, it's Alan Parsons. Of course, it's going to sound good. But the songs here just absolutely really hit me this time around. It starts out with a nice song with Maybe a Price to Pay. Then you have Games People Play. I love Games People Play. I know it's a different vocalist. I'm blanking on his name at the moment, but really enjoy the vocal tone of that one. And I love the chorus, how it just kicks right into high gear. And the bridge section, and you have a good guitar solo in there. Just a good catchy song. Love that one. Then you have Time, a great ballad on here, which is fantastic. I Don't Want to Go Home, The Gold Bug. Then you have the title track, Sweet, if you will. Just a great album. Love the concept of, it's about the hardships of gambling and the bad things that come from it. But yeah, it's a really fantastic album. Again, not an album I hear. I'm sure people love this album, but it's definitely, I don't see this one as like people putting it at number one. But for me, it's my number one. So there you go. And we have some more Japanese pop in my top 10. So we have Eri Saseki. Again, one of those people that, of course, for most English-speaking people, you're not going to know who this person is unless you actively try to seek it. But I knew of her because she actually sung like the opening and ending themes of animes I've watched, and I've always liked the sound of it. And so after some digging, found this album. And yeah, it's a great Japanese modern pop album. Again, you have different tones on here, and funny enough, a lot of these songs are actually in English, which is good. Beep, Beep, Beep. Very fun opening song, just sets the tone nicely. Me Time. Of course, there's some songs I can't read, but, Fireworks, Part of Me, Time After Time, not the Cyndi Lauper song, but still, that's a good song. And then track 13, I cannot pronounce it for the life of me, so if I remember, I'll put text there, just so you can actually see the title of it. But that's probably my favorite song. I love I don't know, it has this, I can't really describe, it has a dance sort of feel to it, but it's not like your typical dance where it's like mellow. Like you probably heard it while I was putting the CD down when I was introducing it. So there you go. That was your snippet of it earlier. But yeah, when it comes to Japanese pop, yep, this is great. I would love to check out even more Japanese pop in the new year, but it's hard to find recommendations these days, but especially here in America. So if you happen to be a Japanese pop fan, hook me up. And we have a live album in the top 10. I know, shockingly. And it's not the last. But anyhow, Deep Purple. We have Live in Graz, 1975. So this is the Mark III lineup. So of course you have Glenn Hughes, David Coverdale, Richie Blackmore, Ian Pace, and John Lord. And yeah, this was recorded in 1975. So pretty much near the tail end of when Richie was in the band before he would quit. But man, Deep Purple always kill it live. I mean, starts out with Burn and just a great heavy track, and the vocals from both David and Glenn are just stellar. Then you have Stormbringer, great one. The Gypsy, Lady Double Dealer, Mistreated, which is a good showcase for David. Smoke on the Water, You Fool No One, and it's closed out with Space Truckin'. Yeah, I mean, it's like Made in Japan, that sort of thing. Of course, Made in Japan is still the best Deep Purple live album to me, but this is pretty good. This is very good as well, especially for this different lineup of the band. I know they have Made in Europe. That's like a big one from the lineup, but I'm probably going to check that out pretty soon. But yeah, just a really, really fun one. Love the love the photo they chose for the cover, by the way. But yeah, not much else to say. Deep Purple. I love Deep Purple. There you go.
Mama just killed a man.
So Queen made the list with a live album. Biased much? But, I mean, Queen live. I mean, they're one of the great live bands that's ever been around. Well, that was around, but I guess technically still is. But anyhow, don't overthink it. But we have Live at the Odeon or Night at the Odeon. This was released back during the anniversary of Night at the Opera, 10 years ago. So I was celebrating the 40th anniversary, but now we're celebrating its 50th anniversary pretty soon. But I mean, it's pretty much just what the band were playing at that time. You have Now I'm Here, Ogre Battle, White Queen, and then you have kind of like a little medley with Bohemian Rhapsody, which goes into Killer Queen, and then March of the Black Queen, and then finishes out with the closer to Bohemian Rhapsody. But then you have some pretty cool deep cuts here, but bring back that Leroy Brown. Then you have Brighton Rock with the guitar solo, Son and Daughter, Keep Yourself Alive, Liar, and Lap the Gods Revisited. And then you have some covers here, a little cover medley. Then you have Seven Seas Rye, See What a Fool I've Been, and close out with God Save the Queen. So it's definitely a nice snapshot of what the band sounded like at that point, and still has that ferocity, has that theatricality, which I love. The vocals from Freddie is still great, guitar work, bass, drums, just has everything I love with Queen. And so, again, possibly biased here, but it's in my top 10 here, but there we go.
Last night.
So we talked about Todd Rundgren's Utopia, but now let's talk about Todd Rundgren solo. So we have Something, Anything. So this is a double album, and this is one of those cases where it's actually 2 CD pack, but I only pulled out disc 1 because it has the album cover. But it's a pretty long album, I will admit. But again, this is him more in his more pop phase. And yeah, I mean, as a pop singer, still lovely. I mean, great tone of his voice. I like the tone of it. And production's really good. Of course, you know, Todd Rundgren would go on to be a really great producer. Of course, he produced Bad at Hell, for Christ's sake. But yeah, I mean, the songs just has a good feel to it. Good melodies, good catchy choruses here. But yeah, it's a lot, but I think it's definitely worth it. But yeah, Todd Rundgren's Something Anything. Yeah, it was. I knew it was going to be pretty high, because I was immediately hooked onto it very quickly, and it kept my attention the whole way through. So there you go, Todd Rundgren. Man, I gotta check out more of him. I just now realized the lights weren't on, but we'll keep them on for the rest of the video. But here we go. More bias, maybe. But yeah, Queen, Live at the Rainbow, 74. Yeah, I think I slightly prefer this over the Night at the Odeon. But because what's good about this particular CD collection here is that it actually has it's a 2-disc pack from 2 separate tours, actually. So disc 1 is from the Queen 2 tour. Then disc 2, which is the Sheer Heart Attack tour. And, you know, the track listing is pretty similar. The only difference is that, of course, Sheer Heart Attack tour had more songs from Sheer Heart Attack, which, duh, of course. But I don't know. I feel like I like the more. This one has a bit more of an aggressive sound, I feel. The guitars definitely have a more grit, slightly more of a grit. And again, the drumming sounds very big sounding, and again, Freddie's vocals I think are a little bit more, has more of an edge, which I like more. But I mean, once again, it's Queen live. What's more to say? But yep, bias aside, these are great live performances from the band.
Pity the fool, it's hard, but he won't.
And now Thin Lizzy has appeared. And man, still, I have not heard a Thin Lizzy album I just did not like so far. Again, I have not heard the early stuff yet, but yeah, I mean, Thin Lizzy just know how to write great hard rock. I mean, Phil Lynott, who is the bass player and lead vocalist, I mean, he knows how to find great guitar players in the band. And yeah, I mean, songs like We'll Be Strong, just a good driving song and kind of almost empowering, almost. The title track's killer, Sweetheart, Sugar Blues. They have songs like Genocide, Killer on the Loose, Hey You. I mean, man, Thin Lizzy, just a great hard rock band. Definitely deserve a lot more praise. And I know they have a big following, but I think in a more general scheme, they definitely deserve a lot more attention. I know they're known for the big song, Boys Are Back in Town. That's still a good song, but definitely people need to check out more of them. So take my word for it. Man, top 3. John Anderson with his latest solo album, True, featuring the Band Geeks. I mean, again, another album I talked about not that long ago, but it shocked me just how much I enjoyed it. So again, I'm gonna keep it brief because I just watched my November CD haul and I go a little bit more in depth. But the fact that John is like in his late 70s, I think in the CD haul I said he was in his early 70s, but no, he's in his late 70s. I think close to 80, or maybe he is 80s. I forgot already, but still, he's this late in the game, and yet he can still put out a really good album here. Again, his voice, again, you can hear the age, but it still has that John Anderson quality, and musically, absolutely stellar. Again, it has that classic Yes sound from the guitar work, the drumming, to the bass playing. Just has a very classic Yes sound, and has some good epic songs on here, but even some little flourishes of some more lighter stuff. And yeah, it's just a really good discovery, and another album that came out this year. So how many albums that I talk about came out this year? Like 3, 4, I forgot, something like that. But still, it's good to know that prog rock is still being produced very strongly, and of course done by the professionals.
Like a square peg in a round hole. Like a hop.
Again, a band that most people might not know, but I know they have another pretty big fan base. So Bebop Deluxe, kind of a British rock band, kind of a bit of an art rock, maybe a bit of hard rock, maybe a little bit, kind of a, I don't know. They're one of those bands I can't really pinpoint what type of rock they are, but let's just say rock. But yeah, another one that surprised me, because I know Bebop Deluxe gets a lot of, they get brought up from time to time, and I was always curious, and so I just randomly at a record store saw this, bought it, and man, I was not disappointed. Really, the big thing that I love the most of this album is definitely the guitar work. I think it's, what's his name, Bill Nelson, I think, if I remember correctly. I know people say he's a great guitar player. Just want to be double sure. Yep, Bill Nelson. I was right. Yeah, just absolutely great melodic playing on here. The rest of the band is great too, and some good, very memorable tracks. Just a great, consistent listen. Like, I have not heard much else from besides this album, but I definitely want to deep dive this band at some point, because I'm that impressed. And I know they don't have a big discography either, but still, man, I really love this album. This is definitely a 10 out of 10 for sure, and it could have been number 1, but number 1 just happens to hit me a little bit more. So we'll get to number 1 in a sec, but before we do, just like as I've always done, let's showcase some honorable mentions.
Raindrops falling from heaven. Enough to say that I'm wrong.
I am the god of hellfire, and I bring you.
Got a way about her.
Ain't no lion or tiger, ain't no mama snake.
Well, folks, yeah, who knew? Just who knew Dennis Wilson had it in him to make a great, stellar solo album. Technically his only one. I know he had material for a second one, but it was never released. But this pack includes those songs. The album was going to be called Bamboo, but yeah. But I'm really going to talk about the actual album, Pacific Ocean Blue. And man, you just don't think that Dennis Wilson could make great music, because again, he started out as just the drummer of the band of the Beach Boys, and that was it. But again, at some point in like the late 60s into early 70s, he started really bringing in some stellar material, like songs like Forever. It's probably my favorite one that he's done. But it's just, I don't know, just something just clicked for him, I guess. And he just had songs that he had. And to me, pretty much most of the songs he contributed during that period were some of the biggest highlights for me. I don't know, he just has this very honest, you can tell he's probably not the most cleanest vocalist, but you hear the earnesty, you hear sincerity, and it just fit well with his songs. And yeah, I mean, this is only pretty much 12 songs. Of course, there's bonus songs too, but 12 songs, And man, the production is absolutely immaculate. And then vocally, again, like I already mentioned Dennis's vocals, but again, just perfectly encapsulates, perfectly fits in the mix. That's what I'm trying to say. I'll just read off the back here just real quick. In 1977, Dennis Wilson's Pacific Ocean Blue became the first solo LP to be released by a member of legendary Beach Boys. So there you go, another fact for you. Dennis, the band's surfer, drummer, and free spirit, emerged from the shadows of his older brother, pop genius Brian Wilson, and shocked everyone with a sound and style unlike any other. Over 30 years later, well, it's a bit over 30 now, but Pacific Ocean Blue remains arguably the greatest solo work by a Wilson. Even more than Brian, which even more shocking. But man, again, I could go through every song, but I think every song here is fantastic. So if you have not heard Pacific Ocean Blue and you're a Beach Boys fan, do yourself a favor, give this a listen, because yeah, I mean I have not heard much other Beach Boys solo albums, but so this is going to be hard to beat, honestly. So there you have it. This is my favorite discovery of 2024. Okay, that was definitely a long one. Just like last, I don't even know. Like possibly this could be longer than last year in terms of length. We'll see how it goes when I edit this. But regardless, it's always a lot of fun, even though it's a lot of work to do a top 50, and recording is not easy too. I think it's worth it because I showcased a ton of different genres and different bands and artists that I feel were really good. And who knows, maybe some of you will check them out and hopefully you'll enjoy them. But besides that, thank you very much for watching this. If you managed to sit through this entire thing, like I said, I appreciate you a lot. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give the video a like. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. And in the comments below, you can let me know your thoughts on any of the albums I showcased here. But that will do it. So I believe this will be the last video. Well, possibly. We'll see. This is either the second to last or last one I'll post before Christmas. So it's either the next video I'm wearing the sweater or not. We'll see how it goes. But once again, I'll stop rambling. Just end the video, please. But thank you again. Take care and goodbye for now.